Good morning. It's time for round 2 of our daily discussion about all things reality TV and Twitter. Twitter is the cesspool where everyone goes to fight. And on Twitter is where some of the best drama will happen with some of your favorite reality TV stars. Now, Kail Lowry and Jenelle have a long history of just, not really getting along. These two are not besties, as you would say. If you remember, Kail and her have been fighting for years. Jenelle has sent Kail a cease and desist. Kail attempted to make up with Jenelle by sending her some of her pothead hair care, to which Jenelle responded by burning it on Instagram and posting it in response to the peace offering. There was the fights with, between Barbara and Kail. It's just not a very healthy relationship. So when we talk about Kail inserting herself into this relationship, I'm thinking, why are you inserting yourself into this situation, Kail? Well, everything started on the 28th when Kail Lowry responded to Jenelle Evan's ex-husband, Courtland Rogers. If you remember, Courtland Rogers was briefly married to Jenelle in 2013. The two were engaged and married after a whirlwind courtship after Jenelle had split up with her ex-fiancé, Gary Head. They were married and separated within only a few months. During that time, Gary was arrested for domestic violence. In fact, they both were. Courtland was held in jail for violations related to previous cases. Jenelle, in her book, states that Courtland physically abused her. The two were alleged to be using drugs while they were together. And it was only after he got out of jail, she briefly reunited with him in April of 2014, and then split again with him, and then quickly rebounded to David Eason, who she's now currently in the middle of a separation and will be getting a divorce from. So she went from Gary, who was arrested for physically abusing her, to Courtland, who she is accused of physically abusing her, now to David, who also she is accused of physically abusing her. So that's sort of the ping pong of what happens. So Courtland was not on the show because during the time that they were together, the show was not on air. So we never really saw the truth about this relationship. And they were actually married for 2 years, but due to weird laws in North Carolina, they had to be separated for a year. So the actual time of them together was less than when they were actually together. So they were married for 2, but literally together for maybe a few months. So Courtland, despite all of that, has managed to stay in the headlines. He has been arrested numerous times over the years for drug possession. He has been battling an addiction to heroin. And he has been in a new marriage with a woman named Lindsay, who now Courtland says is wanting to get a divorce. Earlier this year, he said his wife was pregnant. Everything was looking great. Now we're looking like they want to get a divorce. And he's been tweeting about it all over the place. And Kail, for some reason, decided that she needed to respond to him and tell him not to give up on his marriage, which really makes no sense to me. Kail also discussed on her podcast that she had asked Jenelle to be on her podcast to talk about her leaving David. Janelle's side obviously declined and were not enthused about the offer. Kail also on her podcast says that she believes Jenelle will be back on Teen Mom 2. Again, nothing is confirmed. So why she's inserting herself into this? Well, some people are speculating that she's doing this to be relevant. So here is what we've got. So she said, before you do this, think about why. Then ask yourself if it can be worked through. Don't give up. It's easier because move on to the next best thing. You will eventually struggle in the next relationship. So cherish what you have, Courtland. Love is a commitment. And then she said, even when it's hard, I know I'm being a hypocrite, but it's only because I've been through it. He responded by saying, it means a lot to have someone try and keep us together rather than pull us apart like everyone else. So thank you. He also said, "Thank Kail, you always know exactly what to say and when to say it." Obviously, this response was attracted another ex of Courtland, or of Jenelle, Nathan. Then Nathan says, "Kail, really?" Now Nathan, the father of Kaiser, why get involved with an ex that obviously gets under PB and Janelle's skin? You don't want the drama, but then you egg on the drama. I know Jenelle has done some shitty things, but do you honestly have to keep it going? Not trying to be a dick, just speaking the truth. And then Kail responded, "This has absolutely nothing to do with Jenelle. What are you talking about?" I don't know if I believe you, Kail. And then when another tweeter said, "You literally did this because drama. You tagged your baby mama so she'd see. Why couldn't you DM Kail and tell her in private?" Nathan said, "Haha, couldn't she have done the same thing?" This is that's a knee slapper. And to everyone else in this thread, like I said, people are calculated and complex. Think outside the box. Don't assume you know the dynamics of everyone's lives just because of the little knowledge you have. Courtland then got into it and he said, "Bro, please, you have no business dipping into me and into Kail's conversation. Who are you to ever give advice anyways? I'm not trying to fight, bro. I just think maybe you have more to worry about in your life than to try and find worry in mine. Anyways, well, see you later." Never made any negative connotations. If it's that way, you justify the innocent, reach out for help. I'll pray for you. Please, for the love of it, educate yourself before speaking as if you're a person incapable of critical thinking or thinking everyone else is dumb besides you. And then Courtland responded, "Kail, don't listen to this guy. I mean, he wants to speak about truth. How old was the squirrel that lost his life for your haircut, bro? And one of Janelle's exes, you mean the one that you helped commit adultery against, who was considered Kaiser's legal father at one point?" So, obviously, there was a lot going on here. Kail, people were like annoyed with Kail because Kail left Javi, right? And they're saying, "Who are you to give advice to Courtland when you split up with Javi and you are the one to like insert yourself?" Others were annoyed. The teen mom stans that are on Twitter were annoyed with her because they were saying that she's always inserting herself into other people's drama as a way to be relevant. And people felt like Kail reaching out to Courtland was not genuine because Kail was using this for clout or for some reason to get exposure. Well, that actually isn't a bad assumption because today, now it's all over the headlines. It's on every major outlet. It's on Us Weekly. It's on E! News. It's on, Cosmopolitan. It's in every freaking magazine today that Kail was in a fight with Nathan. So is there a little smidge of truth that inserting herself into Janelle's drama would get her some press? Maybe. So it is interesting though that she would talk to Courtland because again, Courtland is not this like good guy. You guys, Courtland's a guy that's like been in and out of prison. He's been in prison numerous times. He was recently just arrested in July. The guy cannot stay out of trouble. And then she's telling him to stay with this woman. It's just, to me, weird. Why are you getting in her business? A couple weeks ago, she wanted to get Jenelle on her show. When Jenelle says no, then Kail ends up talking to Courtland. That was my processing. So Jenelle says no, and suddenly you and Courtland are besties and you're talking. So did Kail do this because she couldn't get clout from Jenelle by having her on the show, and so now she's going to get clout from Courtland by talking to him and then causing a fight? Because it did prompt a response from Jenelle, who tweeted and then deleted anything for attention. And Jenelle is by and far, in terms of the press for these girls, the biggest draw. Stories about Jenelle, videos about Jenelle. She makes people money. So talking about Jenelle will make Kail get into the press. Why doesn't Kail just stop talking about Jenelle? That's my question. If they don't like each other, if they're not friends, if Jenelle doesn't want to be on her show and Jenelle doesn't talk about Kail publicly, why doesn't she just leave Jenelle alone and just stop talking about her? According to people I've spoken to, Jenelle has Kail blocked on all of these social media accounts. It just really doesn't make sense. Other people will say, well, maybe Kail was just being nice. Maybe she just saw someone in need and wanted to offer some words of encouragement. That makes sense too. She might not even have an agenda. Maybe she's doing this because she wants to just help someone out that she sees as struggling. And because he was on Teen Mom briefly and connected to one of her castmates, maybe she felt like offering some encouragement would help. There's that perspective too. I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle there, but either way, Jenelle wasn't happy with it and Nathan wasn't happy, but Courtland appreciated the advice. So if Courtland was happy with the advice, I guess you can't be too upset. Apparently what she said went into his heart, made him feel better. That's not a bad thing. But I do think, for all intents and purposes, Jenelle is going through enough at this point in time. She's in the middle of a nasty divorce with an ex that she is accused of, on 11 separate incidences, being violent with her, or either physically, verbally, or emotionally. And if she truly cared about Jenelle, the best thing that Kail could do would just be to stay out of all of this. Not interact with people that are connected to her, not respond to people on Twitter, just not do any of this, and just let Jenelle do what she needs to do. So that's what I was thinking. I don't know what to think because I see both sides. I kind of lean to the way of like, why are you being nosy? But then I also see like, well, that was kind of nice. What do you think? Is it clout or is she doing it to be nice? Do you think it's appropriate for her to get involved with this conversation with Courtland? Do you think it's weird that she's even talking to Courtland? I mean, Courtland was barely in Jenelle's life. Why is she following Courtland? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be back later. Bye, guys.